Hey everybody, it's Jason, the ASD manager over here at the Children's Museum of Houston, and here to show you another activity in our biology unit. This one I'm going to direct a little bit more to the counselors of the YMCA and other adult type people, just so you can get an idea of how to set this activity up and how you can work it with your children in different ways. So this activity is all about adaptation. We call it bird beaks adaptation. And what we're doing with this activity is we're taking certain tools like this net right here and trying to get kids to understand what type of bird would have a sort of a mouth or a beak like this and what kind of food would they eat. We also want them to understand the idea of adaptation. And when we talk about adaptation, we can't not mention Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin, when he went to the Galapagos Islands, he started to understand that things adapt based upon where they are and the food sources they need to get. And one of the things that he saw as an adaptation were bird beaks. He also saw that reptiles had adapted different ways and whatnot. So it's this work of his that came up with the idea of evolution, the survival of the fittest, things like that. But it all came from his observations of adapting and the reason for adaptation. And what's really great about Charles Darwin is he put it all in notebooks so that we could see exactly what he was thinking at the time he was thinking it. So what we're basically trying to do here is to show that not only do birds of different species adapt, but birds of similar species adapt in different ways as well, depending on the food sources they have. Take, for example, a woodpecker. Certain woodpeckers have longer beaks, other woodpeckers have shorter beaks, depending on what kind of trees they have to peck into to find grubs that they need. And then of course, if you look at something like a hummingbird and you look at something like an eagle, they have totally different kinds of beaks because they're going after totally different kinds of food. So what you want to do with this activity is, that's most important, is how you set it up. So the setup is pretty simple, but you want to make sure you have the right tool for the right kind of food. So if you look at something like this Play-Doh mouse, this Play-Doh mouse is very much adapted to be eaten by a bird of prey, like an eagle, a red-tailed hawk, something like that. So the mouse here, the tool that you would use to represent the beak are the scissors, okay? This Tupperware container right here, filled with this red nectar, would be the food source of a hummingbird. And the tool that you would use would be a pipette. You kind of insert it in there and pull the juice out. Those are just a bunch of seeds. And birds like finches have a beak sort of like this clothespin to be able to grab the seeds. Okay? A bird like a flicker actually stabs down to get food. And it might get seeds, but it also might get softer food like little grubs or worms or things. You can fill up a pan with water, put fish inside of it, and then a pelican can come down and go ahead and scoop that up. And finally, take a block of wood, put some holes inside of it, take a pipe cleaner, cut it up, and you've got grubs inside the wood that the woodpecker pecks at and eventually pulls out. So you got these 6 different bird beaks that are adapted to get certain kinds of food, even though some birds get the same kinds of food. There's adapted to the way they get it. And what you want to do is you want to see how well the kids harness their food and how much food they can get. But you also want to make sure the kids don't cheat. And that's the big thing. A lot of times when you do the hawk, let's say, or the eagle, the kid's just like, oh, I want the whole thing. I'll just grab it, pull it off the plate, and put the whole mouse inside my stomach. Well, what's going to happen if an eagle tries to put a whole mouse down its throat? It's going to choke. So you want to make sure the kids are also eating the way a bird would eat. Okay? So setup on this one is really important, and then the way you want to have the kids go through the activity is up to you. You can have each kid go one at a time and see how well they do. You can have groups of 4 rotate around in stations to different areas. You can have teams compete against one another. And you can set that either to be really, really nice, like, okay, we're all birds that cooperate and we try to get as much food together, or you can be more draconian and be like, whoever bird gets the most is the one that's going to survive, which is very much in a sense true. So in this one, setup is the most important thing. Actually gathering food is pretty easy. Like I said, when you try to do it with the hawk, what you're going to do is you're going to like cut pieces off and place it into your belly. So you start to cut it up, and what happens a lot is the bird will cut up lots of pieces before it even attempts to start to eat it. So you're just cutting pieces off to get that bird its food. Okay? And it eats basically everything. It'll eat the head, it'll eat the belly, it'll eat the feet, the tail. It'll just eat whatever it can eat. Okay? When it comes to the hummingbird, there's a little hole inside here. You insert this, and you squeeze some out, and you put it into your tummy. Okay? Finches, you just try to grab it. What you're trying to do when you grab it, you're trying to grab as many as you can so that you can have a lot of food. And sometimes the way you have to grab it might be from the side, it might be from the top. It just all depends. So you have to really work at it to get it. All of us have seen those birds like at the park that kind of like are flicking around all over the place trying to get food. That's how the finches or the warblers kind of eat. So what you want to do is you just kind of want to poke in there and grab the food that you can grab. And you just want to keep poking in, trying to get the seeds and everything so that you can get the food you need to get. Okay? Pelican is simple. You just want to sort of swoop in and grab yourself a fish, and then you want to put it in your tummy. The one thing about the pelican to be careful of is you don't want to grab 2, 3, 4, 5 fish at once, because once again, you're going to choke. Okay? And finally, the woodpecker, you have your block of wood, you have your tweezers, you want to try to go ahead and get as many of the grubs out of it that you can get out. Okay? And if you get them out all really quickly, you want to put them back inside and see if you can get more. Okay? Because that's the point. The bird is trying to eat as much as it can to have enough energy and have enough everything it needs to survive. So the basic function of everything is pretty easy. It's more like how you set it up. So like I said, you can set it up in the stations, you can set it up all together and have them just do their best on each one. You can have them do it in teams, you can have them do it alone, whatever you think is best for the group that you have. But the most important thing is for them to understand that these adaptations occur over time. It takes years and years and years for something to evolve or for something to adapt to some environment or area that has a particular food source. So the reason why they're adapting is because they're staying in a particular area and they're trying to get that food source. So when you start to see animals perhaps migrate in a place that was once where they were, it could be because their food source is no longer there and they have to find that similar food source elsewhere. So it's really important that you talk about that adaptation aspect and you talk about the father of all that, Mr. Charles Darwin.